Sometimes, love isn't about rushing to meet someone, it's about patience, hope, and believing that people can grow when given the time and trust they need. This is the story of waiting, of transformation, and of a love that refused to give up. She waited, not in frustration, not with complaints or reproaches, but with a quiet heart that held on to memories and hope like fragile glass, careful not to let them shatter. Every morning, she reminded herself of the love they had shared, the moments when his laughter had lit up her world, and the promises they had whispered under the night sky. She understood that love was not just about being together in perfect moments, it was about holding on when life tested the strongest hearts. Her patience was not weakness, it was a silent declaration, a deep faith that the man she loved could find his way back, if only he saw the truth of what they had once shared. Days passed slowly, each one a reminder of absence and longing, but she never let bitterness creep in. When friends questioned her, asking how long she could wait, she only smiled, because she knew that true love does not operate on schedules or deadlines. She remembered the times he had faltered, the mistakes he had made, and the pride that had kept him distant, and yet, she believed that people could change when given understanding and space. Her love became a quiet, steady flame, illuminating the darkness around her heart, not burning out in frustration but glowing softly with unwavering faith. Her patience was more than just waiting, it was an act of love. She listened to his words, even when they were careless, and forgave the silences that once hurt her. She carried his name in her heart, speaking it softly in the quiet moments of her day, and in doing so, she reminded herself that love was about endurance and belief. Every small memory, every shared smile, became a bridge across the gap that had grown between them, and she held onto that bridge with hope rather than doubt. Even when loneliness whispered that her love was wasted, she refused to let it define her. She nurtured her own heart, grew in ways he could not yet see, and prepared herself to embrace the man she knew he could become. Her patience was not passive, it was the most active form of love, demanding faith, courage, and a strength that few could understand. In her silent waiting, she was speaking a language only love could comprehend, and every heartbeat whispered to him across the distance, though he had yet to hear it fully. He had spent so long lost in his own world, distracted by pride, fear, and the comfort of habits that had kept him distant. Every day, he moved through life almost mechanically, unaware of the emptiness that had begun to grow around him, the quiet space where her laughter once lived, the warmth that her presence had always brought into his life. And then, almost suddenly, the realization struck him, not as a gentle thought, but as a wave that crashed through the walls he had built around his heart. He noticed the absence first, the silence that had replaced their conversations, the emptiness in places where memories of her still lingered. The weight of what he had taken for granted became unbearable. He remembered the countless times she had waited for him, the calls left unanswered, the smiles he had failed to meet with equal care, the moments he had prioritized everything else over her heart. And in that quiet reflection, he began to see not only her patience but the depth of her love, how it had endured despite his mistakes, how it had never wavered even when he had stumbled, how it had silently asked him to rise above the man he had been. Every memory, once taken lightly, now glowed with a significance he could no longer ignore. He began to understand that love was not just about presence, but about effort, attention, and the courage to grow into the person worthy of someone who truly believed in you. It was in the small moments that the realization hit hardest. A text unanswered for days, a familiar place visited alone, the echo of her laughter in his mind, each one became a mirror reflecting the man he had been and the man he needed to become. He felt a mixture of regret and clarity, the sharp sting of knowing he had lost time and the awakening that he could still reclaim it, if he acted with sincerity. For the first time, he did not see patience as a passive act of waiting. He saw it as a testament to love's power, a challenge that demanded change, a quiet plea that he could no longer ignore. And so, he began to look inward, searching for the flaws, the pride, the fears that had kept him away from her, understanding that without confronting them, he would never see the woman he loved again in her full brilliance. Change did not come all at once. It was subtle at first, a flicker in his thoughts, a quiet stirring in his heart that made him pause and reflect. He noticed the small habits that had driven them apart, the prideful words spoken in haste, the moments he had ignored her feelings, the times he had chosen comfort over effort. Each realization weighed on him, but instead of despairing, he allowed it to ignite a determination to become a better man, not for anyone else, but for the woman who had waited through his mistakes, who had loved him enough to believe in his potential even when he had not. He began with the smallest steps, each one a testament to his desire to change. A gentle word where once there was impatience, a thoughtful gesture where once there had been carelessness, a listening ear where once he had turned away. Every action became a bridge, a way of showing her that the man she had believed in was emerging from the shadows of his former self. And with each change, he discovered not only the impact on her heart but the transformation in his own soul, the understanding that love, when nurtured, could inspire growth in ways nothing else could. It was in the quiet mornings and the reflective nights that he felt the true power of change. He understood that love was not static, it was dynamic, evolving alongside the hearts willing to invest in it. The realization dawned that love was not merely the joy of togetherness, but the courage to confront one's flaws, to shed the layers of ego and fear, and to rise into a version of oneself worthy of trust and devotion. Change became his expression of love, a living proof of his sincerity, a way of speaking to her without words, showing her the depth of his commitment through the life he was building anew. Every step forward was accompanied by an awareness of her patience, a recognition that she had waited not out of weakness but out of unwavering faith. And that awareness fueled him further, making each moment of effort more meaningful, each transformation more profound. He began to realize that love and change were intertwined, that one could not fully exist without the other, and that her belief in him had been the catalyst, the quiet force that pushed him toward growth and understanding. The day finally arrived when the distance between them, the years of silence, the space carved by mistakes and misunderstandings, seemed smaller than ever. It wasn't dramatic, not a thunderous confrontation or a sudden confession, but a quiet, inevitable moment where past and present collided, and the weight of their shared history became impossible to ignore. She saw him first from across the room, and in that instant, all the memories of laughter, warmth, and tender words surged back, intertwining with the awareness of how much they had both changed. He felt it too, the gravity of the past pressing gently on the present, the reminder of the man he had once been, flawed and unsteady, standing beside the woman who had waited patiently, believing in him when he could not believe in himself. In that moment, time seemed to fold, and he could see the threads of their history woven into the person she had become, strong, resilient, and radiant, yet still the woman he had loved from the very beginning. Every glance, every hesitant step toward one another, carried the echoes of years lost and lessons learned. The meeting was not about words alone, it was about presence. The unspoken understanding between them, the recognition of change, and the acknowledgement of patience became the language of their reunion. He noticed the subtle shifts in her demeanor, the way her eyes reflected wisdom gained from waiting, the way her smile held both forgiveness and quiet pride, the way her heart had grown while remaining open for him. And she saw in him the transformation that she had silently prayed for, the humility, the gentleness, the depth of sincerity that only experience and self-reflection could have shaped. Every shared gesture, every hesitant touch, spoke volumes about the journey they had endured separately, yet always connected by an invisible thread of love. It was the intersection of what had been and what could be, the bridge built from the ruins of past mistakes and the hope of a present reborn. Each heartbeat in that moment carried the weight of their stories, blending nostalgia with newfound understanding, regret with gratitude, and longing with the promise of something more than either had dared to imagine before. And as they stood there, on the delicate line between memory and reality, the past whispered its lessons and the present offered its grace, creating a space where love could truly breathe and begin to write its next chapter. After all the waiting, the longing, and the silent prayers whispered into empty nights, there came a moment when love began to reward itself. It was not loud or dramatic, but tender, delicate, like a flower blooming after enduring a long winter. She felt it first, the warmth returning to her heart, a quiet joy that had nothing to do with words and everything to do with recognition, the recognition that her patience, her faith, and her unwavering love had not been in vain. Every sacrifice she had made, every tear she had quietly held back, now found its reflection in the sincerity of his presence, in the depth of his changed heart. He, too, felt the reward of love in the most profound way. It was not just the joy of seeing her again, but the understanding that the woman he had once taken for granted had always carried him in her heart. His transformation, fueled by her patience and belief, now bore fruit, and the realization of how deeply he had been loved filled him with humility and gratitude. Each look, each gentle touch, was a testament to the journey they had walked separately, yet always together in spirit. The reward was not a single moment of triumph, but the continuous unfolding of understanding, respect, and a love that had matured beyond the impulsiveness of youth. In their shared glances, there was the echo of every hardship overcome, every night spent apart, and every moment of silent hope. She recognized the man he had become, the one who had embraced change not out of obligation, but out of love, and he recognized the woman she had become, the one whose patience had been a quiet strength, shaping not only his heart but their shared future. Love, in its purest form, had been a teacher, a guide, and now, a reward. And as they moved closer to one another, the world around them seemed to blur, leaving only the space between. Their hearts, every smile, every whispered word, every hesitant step toward reconnection became a testament to the power of love to heal, to inspire, and to transform. They had endured the tests of time, the trials of growth, and the challenges of distance, and yet, here they were, standing together in a love that was deeper, stronger, and more resilient than anything they had known before.